Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura and today we are reading Shark Heart, a Love Story by Emily Habeck. I got this book from Book of the Month, clearly, and I almost skipped. It was a August pick and I almost skipped entirely. But then I was like, you know what? What is the point of Book of the Month if not to try something really random? And this just spoke to me. Like, it's a beautiful cover. It really is. But it is about a woman whose husband is turning into a shark. And it's a love story, not a horror. And like, how does that not intrigue you, right? And we're just gonna go ahead and read the description, which I have done in another video, but we're gonna read it again. Obviously I took the book out of the hardcover already, or out of the case. I haven't started it despite the bookmark. I just have it ready to go. But like, honestly, if you haven't heard the description of this book, I don't think you're ready. For Lewis and Ren, their first year of marriage is also their last. A few weeks after their wedding, Lewis receives a rare diagnosis. He will retain most of his consciousness, memories, and intellect, but his physical body will gradually turn into a great white shark. As Lewis develops the features and impulses of one of the most predatory creatures in the ocean, his complicated artist heart struggles to make peace with his unfulfilled dreams. At first, Ren internally resists her husband's fate. Is there a way for them to be together after Lewis changes? Then, a glimpse of his developing carnivorous nature activates long-repressed memories for Ren, whose story alternates between her childhood living on a houseboat in Oklahoma, her time with a college ex-girlfriend, we stand by Queen, and her unusual friendship with a woman pregnant with twin birds. Woven throughout this bold novel is the story of Ren's mother, Angela, who became pregnant with Ren at 15 in an abusive relationship amid her parents' crumbling marriage. And in the present, all of Ren's grief eventually collides and she is forced to make an impossible choice. A sweeping love story that is at once lyrical and funny, airy and visceral, Shark Heart is an unforgettable novel about life's perennial questions, the fragility of memories, finding joy amidst grief, and creating a meaningful life. This daring debut marks the arrival of a wildly talented new writer abounding with imagination, humor, and heart. And are you just not sold on like just what the hell is going on? Because honestly, that was enough for me to just want to know. But then the opening is written kind of like a play. Scene 1. I don't know how easy that is to see. But I am a fan of just atypical writing styles. Like, I think it is mostly just a novel, but there are pieces that are different. And I really love that. Like, that is so much fun for me. I was gonna say epistolary, but I think that actually is just specifically letters. And then I also want to say mixed media, which might be more accurate. I don't know if that applies here. But anyway, I love books that are just kind of told in a not just literary format. You know what I'm saying, even if I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm excited to get started on this. I'm hoping to read this in a couple of days so that I can move on to everything else that I want to read. And I still need to finish Court by Tracy Wolf. I have been reading that super slowly. I am only like 60 pages into it because I'm always kind of like, oh, I'll just read a couple of chapters, forgetting that the chapters are like 2 pages long. And yes, I could keep going, but I've already committed to doing something after I finished a couple of chapters so that I go do the other things. So anyway, that is all for now, and I will update you when I know more about what is going on with Lewis and Ren and the Shark Heart.
Career in finance because she was good with numbers and wanted to make a lot of money. Numbers provided certainty. Certainty provided control. Control provided protection. Predictably, she excelled. The pace, pressure, and precision forced Ren to forget everything else in her life. Work was the drug she loved, and she loved nothing else. She racked up promotions and bonuses. She made obscene money and spent very little of it. She slept only when her body would no longer hold her up. By the time she moved to Dallas a few months shy of 24, Ren was making more money in a single year than her mother earned in 10. But no amount of work or money would numb the shame and regret Ren carried about being largely absent during her mother's final days. Ren did not know then how precious time was, or how 4 words could crush a person, especially if they came from the person they loved most.
Oh God.
In a world without her mother, Ren found herself imprisoned in a flu-like loneliness. Work was no longer enough to sustain her. She needed people. Ren thought often of Rachel's final words and decided, no matter the magnitude of her fear, her impulse to...
It smells so good. It's dupe Little Caesars bread, and I found this on TikTok. If it's good, I will post the TikTok in the description. But it's basically a measure with your heart kind of recipe. So, but I'm excited to try it. Hello. It's still the same day, so my hair is still weird, but now it's a different kind of weird. It's Sunday and I can't be bothered to do my hair in any meaningful way, so you get to enjoy that. I just finished eating dinner, and that Italian cheesy bread that I was making, that's supposed to be a Little Caesars dupe, is good, but because you can't, well, I don't know if you can't, but because I didn't, and the recipe that I was following didn't call for it, but it's not a deep dish crust. I don't know if you can like buy that pre-made, which I didn't look very hard, but like the Italian cheesy bread from Little Caesars is a deep dish crust. Obviously mine was not. So the flavor was really good, but part of what makes that bread so good is the airy deep dish crust. So this was, it tasted different. So for me, it's not like a dupe, but it was good, and I will continue to eat the whole pan through the rest of the week. Hi, Stormy. You made 0 appearances in the video that was about you. Also, I like that she's committed to sitting just off camera. Like, they're just her little ears. Anyway, so the reason that we're here is to talk about Shark Heart and my new obsession with it. I am just under halfway, but I finished part 1. And I actually tabbed, which, like, obviously not a lot. That's not like me trying to act like I tab frequently. I don't. But there are some really beautiful quotes in this book, and I'm loving this so much. One of the women in my book club finished it today, and she hated it, so that's always a good sign. But this is a love or hate kind of book. Like, this is not going to be a book for everyone, and I have no idea where this next part's gonna go, because pretty much everything that's in the description of the book happens in part 1. So I don't know where we're going next. Like, I thought this whole book was gonna be Ren's journey dealing with her husband turning into a shark. He's completed that transformation by the end of part 1. So I think this is going to be a lot more about grief than I actually expected it to be, which right now I'm vibing with a lot. I think this is a beautiful story, and I understand why the people who do love it are loving it so much, and why it's making them cry, because I mean, let me see. This one's not a very poignant quote. I just really liked it. But Ren is dealing with the fact that her husband has pretty much completely turned into a shark. Like, he's not 100% shark, but I'm probably like 95%. And she is just thinking of all the things that they're never going to be able to do again. And then pretty much at the end of this, she just says, there is never a right time to say goodbye. And it's like, fuck, man. Like, that got me. And another one that I really liked, Lewis thought of all the children, said that wrong. Lewis thought all children came into the world knowing some truth about magic and God. He thought the journey of adulthood was to forget about those things and then partake in the path to remembering. Lewis said one of the purposes of art was to point people toward what they already knew. And I don't know, I really like that. But with the second half, I think exploring grief, that's my guess. I don't know yet, I didn't start. I also think this is going to hit me pretty hard. I just recently experienced a loss, and an unexpected loss at that. So I didn't actually even get the opportunity to say goodbye. And obviously that was really hard, and I'm doing okay. But that's part of why this is striking, I think, with me right now, because I don't want to get into their life on the internet. It's not my life to share. But there's just a lot in here that's resonating with me, and I really love that. But I think, without having read, obviously I haven't read the acknowledgments yet, but I think this shark heart, this condition of turning into a shark, and also for the sake of this universe, like, it's a thing that humans can transform into animals. Like, he's not like some weird anomaly. This is taking place either in a parallel universe or a future universe where you can just kind of get a rare mutation and turn into an animal. Or even, as the description said, you could give birth to an animal. And, like, they could obviously contract it in utero. They don't talk about how this happened. There's no, like, that's not the point of the story. There's no mystery here. Like, this is just the universe that we're in. We just accept it as fact that you could just wake up one day and turn into an animal. We're not trying to solve that. We're living in the world where this just happens and you deal with it. And I think it's all kind of a metaphor for terminal illness. Possibly things like dementia, where you literally watch them transform into a new person who forgets their old life. Well, actually, I guess in the case of dementia, they forget their current life and remember their old life, but you know what I mean. But I could see this being, because dementia typically affects older people, I could see this also being reflected in other terminal illnesses where you kind of watch them waste away and you're kind of saying goodbye to them in real time. And how do you live your life watching that happen? And they even, I didn't tab it. I was listening to a lot of this in audiobook while I was working on Lego, which is up there now. I think it was in my last video, I was working on it. I didn't take any videos of that today. It doesn't matter. It's cute. It's Disney villains. But, so I didn't tab it, so I don't know where it is. But as Lewis's shark prognosis becomes public knowledge, and he has to start stepping back from his job, and Ren has to kind of be his full-time caregiver. She talks about the fact that everyone in their life pulls away, and Lewis mentions that Ren is the only person who looks at him like he was before. Like, everyone else looks at him as he is now, and Ren sees him as he used to be. And especially just from my experience, which is different, but people are so afraid of death that they avoid the dying and the grieving, which doesn't help anybody. It's been very interesting for me to walk this road and experience the way that people don't want to talk about death. They just really want to pat you on the back and just say, you can get through this. No one wants to sit in the mud with you. And for them to bring that up was so, like, I mean, it makes you feel seen. And I think if there's anything that I'm pulling from this, as I'm reading this as a metaphor for death, I may change my mind by the end of it, but that, to me, that's what I'm taking out of it, and that's what's I'm loving out of it. That it is this metaphor for saying goodbye to someone in real time. And how much it sucks that people don't want to sit in the mud with you because it scares them. And it's not easy. Don't get me wrong. Like, I experienced a loss, but the direct family of who I lost experienced a way bigger loss. So I'm doing my best to sit in the mud with them, but you can see that people just don't want to talk about it. And we need to. Death is a part of life, and of course it's sad. It hurts and it sucks, but it also sucks to be going through a loss and to have everyone abandon you because they don't want to be reminded of mortality. Like, can you imagine turning into a shark and having everyone in your life just fuck right off? Like, I don't want to deal with you. I don't care how close of friends we used to be. You're now someone who makes me vastly uncomfortable in your dyingness or in your transformation. I don't want to be reminded of that. So I'm going to just let you suffer in silence. Anyway, that was a slightly emotional rant. I'm loving this book. I don't know if I'm going to finish it tonight. I mean, it's only like 6 o'clock. I definitely could. It reads really fast. A lot of the chapters are really short. And the audiobook, I think it said I have like 2.5 hours left. However, there's been a lot of YouTube videos uploaded today that I really want to watch. So I think I am going to play video games and watch YouTube videos. And at some point I have to edit yesterday's vlog. So I gotta get around to that. So I don't know if I'll finish that tonight, but I will finish this as quickly as I actually anticipated, which is nice because I forgot that Jill Duggar's book comes out on Tuesday. And that is like a little addendum to my other book club. There's like so many book clubs, but the one we're reading, Wayward Children, we started the book club because 2 of us wanted to read Jill Duggar's book and no one else does. So we're all reading Wayward Children and then 2 of us are reading Jill Duggar as well, I think. Well, that's what we've said. I have not actually, I don't know if we're like officially gonna have that discussion, but I hope so because I hate the Duggar family, but they're the train wreck I cannot turn away from. I can't, like Shiny Happy People, I watched the whole thing in like one night. I'm obsessed. So am I buying her book? Yes. Should I be? Probably not. Anyway, so far, I recommend looking into this. This will not be for everyone. It's a weird writing style and it's a weird story. But my God, does it speak to me and my grief. Right now, this is a 5-star read. Depending on how part 2 goes, that might change, but right now, it's a 5 and something I will probably reread. Not this year, obviously, but whenever I feel like I need it. Anyway, I'll see you later.
And this is it in its final home. This is the only thing actually not connected. It's just kind of sitting there. It's gonna fall because I did that. These are connected by like 1 peg. So it's actually not as disconnected as I originally thought.
This may actually be the weirdest thing I have ever read. And it also might be a contender for one of my favorite books that I've read this year. And I've read a lot of books this year. What is there to say? The woman's husband turns into a shark. But it is a love story. At its core, this is about love and loss and identity. While you're going through all of that, if you take the mutation, as they refer to it, as a metaphor for terminal illness / death. In the previous clip, I took it strongly as a metaphor for death. The last 2 parts, so the story is told in 3 acts, and 2 and 3 are, I would say, largely unknown. The description of the book is basically Act 1. So once you get to part 2, you're like, who are we following? What's going on? And I will say part 2 was my least favorite part of the whole story. I think actually I tabbed nothing in that part. I didn't tab a lot, just a couple spots, but I don't normally tab much at all or ever. So the fact that I even felt the need to tab was, to me, monumental. But part 2, I agree, like it's necessary, you need it, but it was kind of the lull for me. And then part 3, we get introduced to a brand new character. Her name is Margaret C. Finnegan, and I love her. All of her interactions pretty much had me laughing. I highly recommend the audiobook. I ended up borrowing it so I could build Lego, and the narrators were absolutely fantastic. So if you're kind of on the fence, I think this works better on audio, honestly. But let me just share with you. Just imagine that for some reason you can understand sharks communicating. And if Margaret wasn't talking, she was singing. And to Lewis's complete vexation, the only songs in her repertoire were snippets of 3 hits from the early 2000s. Bootylicious, Get Your Freak On, and Hot in Here. And just the idea, the absolute idea of a shark just singing those songs sent me. I was cracking up. And then the last 3 snippets, tabs that I have are just more melancholy. That's probably the only uplifting quote I have. But it seemed loving someone was not enough to keep them still beside her. And if that doesn't break your heart when you think about how difficult it is to watch someone die or mutate and disappear, like, you can love someone so much, but you can't stop time from happening. And that, it broke me. I completely get why this book makes people cry. I didn't happen to cry, which is kind of surprising because I cry a lot, but for some reason I'm pretty good at holding it back in books. I don't know why. And then there's another one about how Ren is seeing time differently in life. Like she used to kind of just view herself moving linearly through time. Everything is happening on a straight line, on a path. Ren no longer sees life as a long linear ladder with a beginning, middle, and end. Instead, she considers how life is a spiraling trail up a mountain. Each circling lap represents a learning cycle, the same lesson at a slightly higher elevation. And Ren realizes she likes to rest as much as she likes to climb, and she begins to enjoy the view. And I think that's such a beautiful metaphor for how you travel through life. If you think, like, I think there's a big kind of misconception that once you learn something, you've learned it. And in reality, so much of life is really kind of learning the same thing over and over again in different circumstances and in different ways. And, you know, how you can experience the same thing over and over again, but you're a different person every time you meet that situation. And that creates a new lesson and a new experience, obviously. And I like how the context of that scene made that feel more powerful. I'm not going to give the context of that scene because I think you should read the book. Although I do agree, this book is not for everyone. It is really weird. It is really experimental. It is even told in a weird way. I mean, it's got really short chapters. It's almost written like a play, but not quite. There are chapters that are literally written like a play, but it's all just very different. Book of the Month really nailed it when they called it experimental, because that's 1000% what it is. And there's one more quote that I want to share, which is, Ren is at the beach where she has released Lewis into the ocean to be with his shark brethren. That is just how I'm referring to that scene. That's not at all how that went. But she's returned in the future, and she's, you know, she's aware of the fact that that's where she last saw Lewis. And Wren speaks quietly to the wind, a wind she hopes will carry her message like light waves to another galaxy across the sea to Lewis. And I just love that. Just the peaceful idea of speaking softly and having your message get to your loved one wherever they are. It's a beautiful thought, and I think we all have experienced some type of loss in some way. And it's a beautiful concept to think that they'll hear you no matter where they are, no matter where you are. And if I talk too much about that, I will cry. Or I am crying. Cool, that's fun. But I'm going to ignore that and just tell you that I think this book is really beautiful. And I think if it's something that was kind of on your radar, it is worth looking into and trying. I mean, in my book club so far, only 2 of us have read it. One hated it. I loved it. So I don't know the general consensus of my peers. I don't know anyone else who's read it, so I can't speak to how popular it's going to be, but I have seen people saying it's a love or hate, and I agree. No matter how beautiful the metaphors are, a lot of people are going to hate it because it's weird. But if you can get down with the weirdness, it was worth it. I didn't know what I wanted it to be, and it just exceeded my expectations by so much. Like, I kind of thought it was going to be funny, which is dumb because everyone said that not everyone, obviously, but like people said it made them cry and it was beautiful and this love story. But for me, I was like, man turns into a shark. Like, there's got to be something comedic there. No. It's a gut punch and it's beautifully written. And the fact that this was a debut blows me away. Like, I will absolutely be reading her next book. Now, I don't even know if she has one planned, but I'm planning to read it already. So, yeah, so I guess that's it for this vlog. I am shocked I read that in 2 days. Now, I mean, despite its page count, it's short. Like, it goes fast. So I'm not literally shocked time-wise. I'm just more shocked that I sat down and did it. I was actually kind of super busy today. I didn't know if I was gonna have time. But it is now like 9 o'clock, so now I can go pick up another book and continue the cycle. And I will see you guys next time.